This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.
It is 7:05 and we will call the Finance Committee meeting to order. See if I can find my agenda. All right. I don't have any oral or written correspondence. I don't think anyone wants to. If someone comes in, we'll, do that later. We have some PRFs before us to talk about. I did get a text from Ian about his dispatchers. So he wasn't sure if he needed to come or not, and I was like, no, you're just replacing, it's fine. Mm-hmm. Easy enough. So he has two positions for a full-time dispatcher and a part-time dispatcher. Mm-hmm. So,
motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Never mind.
And then we have some COA. One is for a new position of an outreach worker. And it is 18 hours per week. And it looks like it's getting paid out of the state formula grant.
No, it's out of ARPA.
Oh, that's what that account number is, ARPA. So then what happens when ARPA goes away?
We'll deal with it when ARPA goes away. I'm not worrying about it for the next 2 years. It'll be effective for now.
Okay. I guess that's 2, 4, 5. I have an expense report here.
Give us a chance to find out whether it's something we can utilize or not. Surrounding communities have an outreach workers, so it gives us a chance to test it out.
$245,100,176. Oh, this is the $50,000 earmark.
That's correct.
The COA earmark. Okay. When you said ARPA, I was thinking the big pot of ARPA money. Gotcha.
We didn't get any of that. We got our own, so that was good.
Yeah.
That's nice of the state. So the only difference though, and I don't know if she adjusted it for anybody, but the annual expense should really be between the base pay and the max pay per hour, not just, we don't know if we're going to hire somebody at $17 per hour. So it could vary from $14,761 to $24,400, depending on level experience and grade. So
Yeah, on here it says
Grade
pay
step.
scale 1571 to 2597,
Right.
and then the range of the expense is 14 and some change to 24 and some
okay,
change.
yeah, adjusted it. Okay, good, thanks.
And I'll let you guys look at this. So the PPPB approved the job description. Are they still approving job descriptions?
Yeah, that was approved a while ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was the
always start
first,
off
the
on it.
first step, so.
Let's do one at a time here.
I'm okay with that. Motion to approve, I guess. So unless you have.
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Guess I just want to write on here. And then we have a PRF for replacement of the COA director. And this has a note, first verify top end of the range. What do we have in the budget for that position?
2712 is the range in the budget.
What did you say?
2712 is the hourly range in the budget. So it
Okay.
depends on what level of experience we hire somebody at. We can also use state formula grant if we have to up that a little bit, so. 2712 per hour, so. But that's the grade range, the steps, so.
But I guess it's hard because if you have this range going up to $38,064,000 and you don't have the money in the budget and the state formula grant's not listed on here, and I think you have a little bit of an issue. If someone comes in and they have great experience and you want to pay them, 60 grand and that's not what's in the budget, it's kind of tough to be able to.
Well, I'm happy to add the state formula grant as an additional resource if you want to add that in, because we don't want to delay this.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Joy and I are on the search committee, that was appointed by the select board.
Yeah, I mean, I guess maybe there could be a note on here that says,
If it exceeds
if it exceeds the fiscal 24 budget, it will get taken out of the state formula grant. So then if you do that, then what would you use for programming? Because I thought you guys were using the state formula for programming.
We're trying to balance it all. We've
Yeah.
got a lot more money this year than we did back then, so
Mhm.
because of the census, but, it's still a balancing act, so. Just the new director will have to balance that budget.
Something, where is it? That's what I put on here. I just want to write the dollar amount on here.
Also, what's budgeted?
Yeah. It is 45,127.68. And the 32 hours is currently what she has?
No, they
No.
were
It's an increase.
It's an increase in
from
hours.
26 to 32.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you feel that they need an increase in addition to hiring a new 18-hour-a-week position too?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's what I think has been approved by our budget as well as by the select board. Again, we're just a search committee, but we're going to increase it so the hours are the same as the rest of town hall. Instead of shutting it off at 3, it's going up to 4, plus there's 2 hours for a board meeting every every month, and evening programs as well. So at least 2 or 3 times a month. So, and then we're trying to get a little bit of more coverage on Friday. If we have the van going, we should have somebody accessible. So, Tim, it's a department head. It should be similar to the other department heads, hourly-wise.
I don't know if you want to take a peek.
We did a lot of research beforehand when we went to the budget to make sure that we're comparable to similar communities, you know, that for COA directors, and really a lot of them are working 40 hours, so nobody's working 26, so we feel 32 is a good compromise as well.
I'm good. Every side.
Oh, sorry.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I will give these back to Ed.
Pardon me?
I will give these back to
Yes,
Ed.
thank you.
So. we can,
I think there's something here.
I was looking for your transfer. The next thing is the Board of Health is looking to get a transfer during that end of year, May 1st to July 15th. And since we are meeting tonight, I thought we could talk about that and discuss it and then move it on to the select board for when they do their portion of the transfer pieces. So I'll just find it. I don't know if you have a copy. I don't know if I forwarded it to you guys. Where's the email? I try to put it all in one mailbox, but
If you approve it, if you could just sign that and give it back to me, you want me to give it to Ed if you... That's what I gave you with
Yeah.
a copy of the budget.
so ultimately, you want to transfer $7,000 from the health agent wage line to the Board of Health expense line.
Correct. That's to continue the inspections for May and June till the end of the fiscal year. At this point, I think there's probably, maybe if we're lucky, if there's $100 left in, to be able to continue the inspections. We've got about 12 more of the multifamily housing inspections to do, which involves the fire chief and the building inspector as well. It's very time consuming. It's busy time of year. Contractors, realtors, food trucks, forever.
So how much do we pay him by inspection, I'm assuming?
We pay him by, no, he has an hourly rate.
Okay.
And, that he had given us. So it's, he doesn't charge mileage or anything, but it's just his time as a consultant.
Okay. And, so I'm gonna ask you.
I mean, the money
He's
was
paid
there
up through till when?
till just recently, the last invoice he gave us. That's why I'm not gonna have him go forward with any more inspections at this point, which of course can pose some issues,
Pass out.
unless we have funding.
Let's see what's in this one. So this is the latest report that Bradley sent.
Yeah, I think I gave you the balance.
print that.
There's little over 10,000.
Yeah, 10,000 in health agent wages.
Right.
And expenses, there's like $1,521. Okay.
I think it's fine, I mean, it's still
Yeah.
within the,
Yeah, I mean, the
Total
money was there.
departmental
for
The money's there to
services.
begin with, so.
Right.
motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Do you know when the select board will be looking at their portion of this? So that, I'm just a little concerned about.
I guess I would ask Ed when he plans on doing, and I mean, there's transfers in the town meeting warrant. But I don't
I mean,
know if he's gonna have any others to do, I'm
But they-
assuming he will.
They can do it at their next meeting after town meeting though, correct?
Well, we're meeting tomorrow.
Yeah, I would have them do it at the next meeting, because then
Or
you're,
town meeting for 30 minutes, so something simple like this, that
Yeah.
is real quick,
It's quick.
can get taken up tomorrow.
then at least you're not you're not spending, you're not in a deficit, because technically you're not supposed to be,
But we're not on
so.
the agenda, do you think that's okay?
Yeah, there should still be that line, any other business that can't
Oh,
be.
okay,
Yeah,
great, okay.
and I assume Joy's good with it, because she's not going against it here, so you got two votes.
Not yet.
Okay.
Joy's a slash and burn, cut everything to the core.
So you want me to just copy this and I'll email it to you so that you have it for your records too?
Yeah, that's fine.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah.
Anna, is this your purse?
Oh, yeah, my phone get very fond of that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, I didn't necessarily agree with the big increase in the extra position, but you guys voted yes and you're a majority, so.
Yeah, well,
Are we the last eyes to look at it, though?
Huh?
Are we the last eyes to look
Yeah.
at it?
Well, the select board will have to finance
but they must have agreed, because they didn't put it in the budget.
for 45,000.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
okay.
And I remember it was when we were doing the last override, and it was, we can't use the state monies to pay the director anymore, so we're moving all that $9,000 into the budget for that person to get paid, because we needed these other monies to do programming and everything else, and now you don't need them to do that, so anyway. And they'll just think I'm picking on Joan, because that's what I've been told for the past 5 years, so I didn't want to say much.
yeah, I mean.
Whatever.
it
I mean, they
seems
need to
it-
get someone qualified, I get it. I don't know that you should be open Fridays if we're not open on Fridays,
And they're
but
getting another 18 hours in addition to the people they already have. You know,
it would be good to know, just out of curiosity, how many people actually come through the senior center, but,
and maybe that will change too when they have a new director who might bring in new things.
yeah, who might have different ideas and different,
I think they're
Thoughts?
also thinking the building's gonna get built. Before
When?
the end of the next, like in their mind, they're like, well, we need to hire somebody who will commit to that, even if you don't get those hours to start with. When you get to the new location, you're going up in hours. I think it's their mindset. They want to hire somebody that won't necessarily do the 30 hours to start, but understands in 2 or 3 years when the senior center is built, in their minds, they will be working 30 hours.
And where do they want to build it? Do they know?
I'm not on that committee.
Oh, I didn't know.
I like the place they have right now. I'm good.
I had heard, again, this is all that they were looking at that piece of property on Clark Street. I was talking to Ryan Gieler about it, but there's problems with stuff on, I don't know.
Over here, down here.
Behind Heritage.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's the one they picked on.
Oh.
They selected to move forward with. The first one by Heritage, not the one by Keystone.
Yeah, I think Gallagher only owns one of those.
He owns one part and then someone else owns the other part.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of who was it. Anyway, and the firemen can still keep living in a trailer and the police can see through their walls, but that's okay. Okay, town meeting warrants, which is why we're really here. So, yeah, Ed had mentioned in his email that he was,
Oh, so I get it now, because I reread the email. So even the motions that are printed on here are not correct.
For the first three?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they're going to be higher.
oh, thank you.
I thought since we just got this today, that he would have changed the motions, even though he can't change the article, you know, but it's, the motions weren't changed.
Thank you all. Good night.
Good night.
Yeah, I think in his mind, he has to stay with the one that was signed.
What was that?
The one that was signed has those numbers.
Yeah, but the motions didn't have to be on the original articles, I don't think, did they?
When they were posted, the motions aren't on it.
Yeah.
Right, just the dollar amounts, right? But the dollar amounts there on the original.
Right, so I know that couldn't be changed, but see, what he sent us today has a summary and a motion, and the motion could have been updated to say what it truly is gonna be,
Yeah.
but,
So according to this certification from DLS,
it was how much for?
$476,282. Which, in looking at this, it's a little concerning that they took 28,000 bucks off for deficits for grants and stuff. So that was a little concerning to me because that's a big chunk of money. And there's no reason why some of these should be on here, but again, I didn't do this and I'm not.
Can you tell me what that means, the 28,000?
Oh, sorry. So what happens is that if you have deficits, when you look at this report, and you have deficits in any other fund, like if you have a grant, right? Say the grant was 25,000 bucks, and you spent 26,000 bucks because you overspent. The general fund, taxpayer dollars has to cover that.
So we overspent grant money by $28,000?
I don't know if we didn't. I don't know if we overspent or we didn't get the money, because what can happen is if you have a grant and you don't necessarily get, because it's reimbursable. So you spend the money first, you give all your paperwork to the state, they say, okay, here's your money. If we didn't get that money by September 30th of 2022, then you have to reduce the amount of free cash that the state's going to give you by that amount, and you'll get it. Actually, you won't get that back. That's the problem.
When the receipt comes in,
The receipt comes in, it's going to go against a grant that's not coming back to general fund. So, you know, or if they're, you know, like there's a variance when they did the cash reconciliation. Okay, so you can't find 11 bucks. You know, you basically are writing it off that you can't find the difference. And that's how they're doing this. But like there's 335 bucks for Chapter 90. You get, I don't know why that's on here. And some of these are smaller. Anyway, it just looked, to have that much money. So they took this away. So our free cash could have been $28,000 higher. So I don't know if someone didn't do the research for all these, or these are really deficits, or we didn't get the money till like October or November. Then I guess people need to be aware that that's happened, and they need to somehow cover those deficits, because you lose $28,000 in free cash, but you're not getting that money back if you get the money from the grant.
Because it's going to go back to the grant.
Yes, exactly.
So whatever grant or grants is actually now $28,000 more.
Yeah, whatever. I mean, I'm trying to think of what's on here is personal property refund due, Student Opportunity Act, Title II, planning land grant, real estate variance, personal property real estate to overlay variance, 7,100 bucks. We don't have an assessor, so I don't know how you can make sure that your overlay balances if you don't have an assessor doing sort of stuff. And anyway, it just seemed like a lot of money to me, but So with that, there's $476,282 that there is a policy in place that we take part of it and put it into capital stabilization, part of it into operating stabilization, and part of it into OPEB, post-retirement benefits. And these parts that Ed did seems like he didn't have that number when he did these.
Yeah, so I wonder why Ed's number was so much lower than what was actually
He
submitted.
said his placeholder was the average of the last 5 years. And then if I remember right, we got notified the free cash certified Tuesday morning, the night after we finalized the warrant.
Yeah, I was just curious because I thought, like, I remember asking you, well, what do you, before it was public, well, what do you
Yeah.
think it's gonna be? Like, you kind of had an idea, so I just,
Because I would have, this is just me, I would have completed those schedules, and so I would have had an idea of what it was, plus or minus anything the state would have
yeah,
adjusted,
yeah.
and then so you would have had a closer number. I mean, because you would have, in order for these to get certified on 5/2, he would have had to have submitted the certification and know what the certification number was he submitted, which is what he probably should have put on this. Not just guessed average of the past 5 years. Because you would have had that number that you submitted.
Well, that was part of my question.
Yeah.
Was that really the number that was submitted? Was like 276, and then they found, like, I don't know.
But anyway, you would have submitted that, and then,
Yeah.
so these.
When I multiply out the percentages by the actual free cash number, Article 1, the motion should be $166,699 if you round up to the nearest dollar.
166 what?
699.
Mm-hmm.
Because it ends with like 60 cents, so I
Yeah.
rounded it up. For Article 2, it should be $142,885. And Article 3, $47,628.
So they're going to have to make an amendment on the floor to change the dollar amount to the motion?
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think they can just change the motion
As they read it.
as they
As
read
they
it.
read it, yeah.
So I'm okay with those three, because those are really like housekeeping. right?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
so actually, if I take the 476, 282, because I know this will get asked, and I subtract the 166, 699, and I subtract the 142, 885, and the 47, 628, it leaves 119,070.
Left in free cash?
Yeah.
Okay. Which they can use for,
Which might
I
be.
think it
some-
comes up later on,
Of course.
because again, Monday night we finalized everything, and Tuesday morning, a department head who remained anonymous revealed that he only had 1 week's of payroll left in his budget. But he's now sending out emails, and he's changed his title from his department head title to Chief One Foot. You guys aren't on the department head?
yeah.
I saw it, yeah. Yeah, I don't
So
get
I
that.
think there's an asking for 70,000.
But I don't even know that money's in the,
And free, what do you mean? Available? Or-
yeah, in the ambulance receipts.
No, I think they're asking for it out of free cash, aren't they?
Oh, I don't
I
know.
don't want to get that far yet. So I guess, do we want to recommend as we go along? Because our responsibility is doing them all at the end. So our responsibility is to say whether we recommend or not recommend, which they're not necessarily going to get into any documentation for tomorrow. We would
Right.
probably have to stand up and say it, but at least we would know, whether we recommend something or we don't recommend.
So do you want to just go through them, and if we feel strongly against one, otherwise we're recommending?
We're recommending, yeah, that's a good idea. So if we have a contract that's more than 3 years, it has to go to town meeting vote. Which you probably know, but I talk like I know, I assume that you know all this stuff, but you don't, I apologize.
I know some of it.
Yeah.
So we're taking, so for Article 5, I'm just kind of skipping over Article 4 because it's really just a
Just the lease,
contract,
yeah.
right? So it's already in the budget, I guess. The 350,000 is the amount.
That's the full ask of Hampshire Regional. We had put in a $340,000 credit. And reduced it down. But if you go back to their, if you look at the placeholder we had
It's
in there-
because of the credit,
Yep, and from the ELD.
and we sent them less for the fourth quarter, so theoretically that money is going to be in our free cash next year.
Correct,
But we can't wait until then, so
correct,
apparently there is money in the operating stabilization to take this out.
correct.
I
And
mean,
will you put that money back into operating stabilization from the money that from the free cash when it gets certified next year?
So I think that's our intent. The wording was supposed to be too appropriate specifically for that purpose, so if it doesn't get spent on that purpose, it goes back.
It has to, so. I mean, I don't think it necessarily has to say that that's what the state statute says, doesn't matter when we do. I guess my question is, they voted to reduce our fourth quarter assessment? Is that what Hampshire voted?
Correct.
So, like Donna said, that will get dumped into our free cash, so when the books are closed for '23, when the free cash gets certified, you're gonna do an article to move that into stabilization, to put this money back.
Yeah. and-
Okay.
And the plan is to get, we'll see how we do, but get free cash certified by October,
Okay.
instead of waiting until like now, like we did this year,
Yeah, because, and because you were a treasurer and you're a treasurer, you deplete your reserves and your bond rate's not gonna look very good, because you don't have any money.
So the other piece that's going to be new this year is, I don't know if he gave you the supplemental, the actual budget by departments printout that when we go to vote, we vote in sections of the budget.
Yeah, that's how Robert does it.
So Robert has agreed to break out the educational into 2 separate votes. It's going to be Norris and transportation, voc ed, and voc transportation as one vote. Hampshire Regional Capital and Hampshire Regional Budget as a separate vote. And the select board is going to encourage a no vote on the Hampshire Regional budget and try and get that section voted out. And then, in theory, Goshen would do the same thing. And then the Hampshire Regional budget will fail, and the Hampshire Regional Committee has to go back and go through their process and spend another budget. And the argument for that is they're sitting at about $2.1 million in combined E&D and school choice, because they've asked for additional money every year, year over year over year, and they built up this surplus.
again and again, because this is not the first time.
56% of that came from the taxpayers of Southampton. So there needs to be a little bit more transparency up there.
There is no number in here for Hampshire Regional Capital.
Correct. It's just, but it's zero, but it's just going to be, we're going to take Hampshire Regional, those 2 lines. So it'll just be whatever their school budget is.
Is there something that we get that says what the balance of the capital stabilization fund and the operating stabilization fund is?
It should be,
Somebody usually asks at the meeting.
yeah,
when we
but
start
it should
the-
be in your, you should have the
Next
balance
month's
in
report,
this,
okay.
yeah. So,
I think it's 4.25 or 427.
so operating stabilization is $564,416.
And then one of those earlier votes is gonna send, what, 35% of free
Yep.
cash into that bucket.
So that'll add another $142,885.
And how much is in capital stabilization?
$39,961.94.
That's not very much.
So, well, anyway, so the thing is, if there's only like 40 grand, and if this free cash number was true with what Ed thought it would be, and you only put 90, all this capital stuff, does it add up to more than that?
There was a 5,000, the number we were working with, there was a $5,000 shortfall for the exhaust system of the fire department. That we were going to, assuming that's an accurate number, which is being validated to determine whether or not it was quoted at prevailing wage or not. Does that include installation or not? If it truly is $5,000 short, then we're going to use the $5,000 one. But if it ends up being 70 or 80,000,
I don't understand how the wages can be under when so many shifts have gone unfilled.
it's a good point. I agree with you.
I mean,
We haven't had a public meeting since that came to light to ask that question.
it was budgeted was more than last year. I don't understand that. But I don't want to be here all night either, so let's get through these, I guess.
So I'm okay, well, I guess Article 5, as long as we put that money back at some point.
Do we just have to remember that, or is there some place that's?
It really probably should say it in this article, that when,
In the motion.
in the motion, yeah, that if they plan on putting it back, it should get voted that way. But someone has to remember that. Somewhere down the road. In 6 months from now. I mean, it doesn't have to, but it makes sense if you do it, because you got that extra money from Hampshire, and you couldn't use it because of the way that it was voted up there.
Well, hopefully it will happen. I think the only way that it might be hard is, if we only got a 200,000 in free cash next year,
Yeah,
And then the policy that we have, I guess, well, as far as moving so much into,
I read
stabilization.
that policy, but it's really just, it recommends.
Yeah,
It
Yeah.
doesn't say shall. So every year, in theory, there's,
I think it's a good policy to have, and I think,
and you could do additional on
Right.
top of it.
right, but what I'm
December,
saying
yeah.
is, say free cash is certified at 700,000 next year, but we're not necessarily going to put 10% of that if we're moving the 350
Yeah.
right off the top.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I see what you're saying, yep.
Okay.
So then we have the budget. So a few things got changed around here from the last one.
I know, I didn't understand, I know, I wasn't at all the meetings, but I had commented on one of the emails that we were all on, that, we could have reduced, like, winter wages, expenses, or winter road wages, whatever it's called, and expenses, because those are the only ones we can legitimately overspend. But yet,
Did we,
those weren't
Okay,
changed.
just
Those
say-
weren't changed.
aren't they the same as last year?
No, I don't think so.
There was a collective $45,000 ask in there, but I thought we reset those two line items to be the same as last year.
Oh, maybe.
You did this,
Fiscal
and then we
20.
moved 40 or 45
Three.
into expenses.
Yep.
Oh.
Yeah, they're the same, 142 and 122.
So the thought was that,
One.
if you look at the historical, Randall's going to spend it, and if he's held to find the money in his budget, he's just, raiding his department, so if he needs the money, leave the 45 that he's asking for in there. We deliberately didn't put it in wages. We put it
Well,
in-
general highway expenses went up.
Is that, one of the line items should have gone up probably 60 on the guy. I think he already had 15 or 20 in
Like
there.
70, well, it went from 148 to 223.
Yeah.
It's like 75,000.
Yeah, so 40 of that is the winter road stuff.
So for instance, town administrator, is that his new amount for his contract?
No, so it's 80 something?
98.1?
Yeah, so the town administrator, the town administrator is leaving. In July, we're gonna start search, as soon as we can get organized, for the new administrator. Town administrator's contract stays as is until December 31st. And then there's a new person coming in, and I think we started off with, when we did it, we said, well, we're probably gonna need to pay $100,000. So that's the number we put in there, but then thinking, well, it's only 6 months, and we needed a couple $1,000s for somewhere else that's gonna lower that. But the current administrator's salary is not changing.
And then, the accountants went up, is that in his contract?
Yes.
That he goes up whatever that percentage is?
He goes up the blended percentage of all other non-union individuals.
Interesting. And then collectors is up, well, she doesn't have a contract, she's elected, so you guys just chose to increase that?
On the wage scale. So all
Okay.
non-union people, plus they went up the next step until we get the Collins report back.
All right, that one, town clerk. And then I'm assuming the chiefs and Randall are all based on their contracts?
Correct.
Okay. And there's an cost of living included in those?
So, fiscal 23 approved budget. I don't understand this. Fire department wages for 22 is 241. 23 was 146, according to this report. Fiscal 23 approved budget, 146,000. And then the requested amount for 24 is 149, but now he needs another 70,000. Why did it go
For
down?
fire or EMS? Because EMS wages, if you look, or EMT wages in 22 was
Oh,
220.
And then
And then
increased,
increased
okay,
it,
so it
yeah.
was the other way.
Wasn't
yeah.
it last year? Was the
That's right, the
percentage
percentage is,
split?
yeah. I'm just going through to see what ones are changing if the override goes through. But I mean, I personally don't feel like we have time to go through this budget, or we should,
No,
you know what
no,
I mean?
no, no.
Because we.
I just was kind of
No, I
going through,
know.
just looking, just like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Uh, Can we move on to Article 7? Do you think? Or do we need to?
No, I think we're good.
Because I'm assuming that the ambulance fees, the 125, that's been certified, that there is money in there. It's probably taking it right down to nothing again, because we seem to spend it as fast as we get it.
Okay. $171,302, but I don't know, when did he do the revenues through? Are they still just
December 30th.
January?
January 17th, I think, was the
Oh.
latest one.
Or 2 weeks.
So
But yeah, so
ambulance,
we-
we take money, we collect fees from the company that does all of our ambulance billing, and it gets put into this, what they call a receipts reserve for appropriation. And you can only appropriate money out of here as what the balance is. But this balance isn't really reflective of all the receipts that are gonna be posted through May 9th, because this is only through January 17th, is that what you said?
Right.
Yeah, so, I mean, for the $125,000 to get appropriated from here to cover some of the ambulance expenses, we have enough money in there. I mean, I'd have to look, and I don't know how much money they collect every month, you know, what the average is, so that's, I don't think, if they didn't post the receipts or enter them,
She
then
probably just went through, she got them all sitting there.
I guess you'd have to know in order, because someone's gonna ask that question, how much money is in the ambulance? So I'm hoping that somebody has that piece. I'm not okay with an override budget,
I'm not either.
because I don't think it encompasses everything that the town needs. Because if you're taking $350,000 from operational stabilization to fund Hampshire Regional, you're gonna be that much more in the hole next year.
Well, and we just did this, how many years ago? Not that many years ago. And it looks like a lot of the expenses that are in the override budget are fire and EMS.
It's all fire and police, which they deserve that money, but I think we're short-sighting ourselves by only keeping it just to that category and doing an override.
Yeah, I can tell you from the select board's point of view, if this override passes, we assume there's another override next year. This is a placeholder to get us into the good graces with the ambulance service right now, and to stop contracting with East Hampton and sending money over there. Because we had 280 shifts that we couldn't respond to here. And the citizens, I believe, are under the impression that we have 24/7 operation of our ambulance service, and we frankly don't. And the Department of Health came in, sanctioned us, issued that, forced us into a contract with East Hampton. The mid-May to late June, or within that period of time, during the chief's pending retirement, there's going to be an outside study of the service and what do we need for our town and what should it look like in size. No more gut feeling or just, I need $1.2 million to run the department. Let's get the facts and figures and put it all together and then print the final piece before the voters next year, assuming this passes as the placeholder. Here's what you need. If you want the 24/7 service, this is the price tag, here's the plan. Vote it up, vote it down. But if it goes up, then we stay. If it goes down, then we're cutting the service. Because we can't continue to operate as if we provide 24/7 service and don't actually deliver on it.
But we really haven't been.
We haven't, but my gut tells me that the general populace of the town believes that we currently are staffed 24/7 at the paramedic level.
So why are wages, again, Why are we overspent in wages unless he's using wages to pay the contracted? I don't think you can take that out of wages
You
though.
can't.
Can't you take it out of ambulance expenses?
You could. Yeah. But, I mean, really, you can't, well, it's tough because it really should all be appropriated.
Correct, but when you have, I mean, the chief is the only full-time benefited employee over there. But
Correct.
if you look at the W-2s that are being generated, there are people working in excess, working the equivalent of full-time hours there, and they're not on the rigs. One's in there doing the payroll, one's in there doing billing and Medicare, but instead of breaking it out and showing the transparency, it's all getting tucked into the ambulance receipts or ambulance wages.
Right, so even though he doesn't technically have an admin person, he has people
We're spending
paying
money, yeah.
more money to do admin.
Right.
I guess me personally, I just feel like if you were gonna do this and then ask again,
And then the senior center, and then,
well, and the bridge hasn't even hit the taxes yet, or those other borrowings that we borrowed, that those haven't hit our debt exclusion on our taxes too. And this, I think if you were to do this and it passed and you got the 24/7 coverage, and then you're like, oh, and by the way, we're gonna do a study to see if we really need all this, people are gonna feel like they got shafted. That's my own personal opinion, but. And then, again, and I hate to see, like, look down the future, but if you do this now and you're short next year for the school, where are you gonna cut $350,000? Are you gonna cut this so you can make up for the school because
Well,
this is gonna work?
That's part of the argument of why Hampshire Regional needs to go back and sharpen their tools. They cannot be operating on budgets where they plan on generating $900 to $1 million in surplus money every year. Because that's $550,000 they're taking from us that they don't need to take from us. And if they, I like their idea of building a capital stabilization account for building improvements, that's great, but talk to us about it. Don't just do this end run, and then if you saw their proposal, option number one was the very thing called the shell game. Well, we're just gonna adjust school choice and print this money in, we're gonna keep it all. Well, that's what you've been doing for years, but because there was a turnover in the business administrator's office and that person left, and the new person coming in didn't know enough to play that shell game, you've been exposed now. And now you're sitting on over $2 million in surplus money. And again, Southampton's point of view, over $1 million of that is ours. What could we, if we had that money this year, we wouldn't need this override. Right, if that 500 came back to us.
And-
Or that 340.
Or if you,
whatever.
and you took it off the assessment for this budget year,
Right.
but then you're stuck next year still.
Right, well, in theory, next year, we need our delegation to Hampshire Regional to get in line and force the transparency through the budget up there, to identify, where have you been hiding this $700,000 to $800,000 year over year over year? And it's coming out. I mean, the school's a great school, it's great programs and all that, but the taxpayers should decide where the money goes. And they need to have the full story to do it. In the meantime, we got the problem with mandating or funding the ambulance. Keep that going 24/7. And then the PD has the problem with the new mandates that all basically part-time police don't exist anymore, which cripples the town, which,
I mean, I almost feel like we could have full-time people. For what we have budgeted for wages for fire and EMS, we could have 2 people covering full-time the shifts for, it seems like.
yeah, but you need 6 or 8 people to do that. Are you talking about 2 people around the clock?
Yeah, you'd need 6 people, plus maybe fill in with part-time people to cover shifts when people are off or something, but,
Yeah, their argument would be, and I'm not, without seeing the study, I don't know one way, but their argument would be is once you go full-time, now you're more than likely, it's gonna be a union group. There's gonna be benefits involved.
Yeah.
There's gonna be retirement involved. They're just gonna add those. And now, with the per diem setup, if you can drive your rates high enough to attract the per diem people, that the other towns are paying for all their training, certification, and upkeep. And we're not.
I guess it would just be, I don't know, it just seems like right now I don't know. We're budgeting a lot. We've obviously overspent already, and we're not even getting what we think we're getting.
Right.
So, I guess I'm not in favor of, and it's not anything against fire or police, I just don't think it's physically responsible at this stage to do an override now and have to do another one later, so that's my
I agree with you.
personal
Yeah.
opinion.
I agree too.
Okay. Article 8, we're gonna have a problem.
Just one?
Just one, because the transfer station retained earnings came back as a deficit,
Oh, that's the,
which is very bizarre because last year it was like $54,000 to the positive. Now it's $2,808 in the deficit, which means you can't use $7,058 from retained earnings to balance this budget.
shouldn't have bought those new dumpsters.
That was appropriated from capital money.
The dumpsters, they didn't come out of retained earnings?
Yeah, that was their free cash, yeah, I think it was 25,000 bucks.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, their deficit is
28, what?
2808. And last year was 54.
How did that happen?
Yeah.
That's what I was like, huh?
Unless something got booked wrong or,
It doesn't make any sense because last year was $54,000. So I didn't really delve into it too much because I didn't look at 22's numbers in terms of, you know, what the cash was and what the expenditures were. But yeah, I don't have 22's. Probably have it somewhere saved, but yeah, it didn't quite make any sense. So you can't take this money from retained earnings if it's not there. And now this should have been raised on the recap, but the recap was done before the books are closed, so they're gonna have to fund that deficit from free cash, or they're gonna have to do it on this year's recap. Which means you're now $2,808 short when you.
so
your
they
revenues.
basically need like $10,000 almost.
Yeah. Yep.
Because the 7,000 plus the 20.
Yeah, the 28 you can go, you know, when you do the recap, you can do it then, but you can't do this budget without it unless he thinks he can unless he can either cut this or he has more money and revenues than he thinks he does by $7,000, which for the transfer station is kind of tough.
Yeah.
The water department could easily make up 10 grand, but transfer station
Yeah,
is
that
tough.
never came up. This is the first I'm hearing.
So I don't know where this $7,058 came from because this wasn't certified yet, so. And you can't take an average of what it was the last 5 years because it doesn't work that way. But, I'm not quite sure what I know, but.
See, Vicki, this is why you're here, because even I didn't go and look at what that was. All right, well, we're gonna have to deal with that tomorrow night. It's not gonna get solved tonight,
No.
but we will definitely bring it up tomorrow. All right, Article 9. What's in retained earnings for water?
$1,127,190.
$1 million?
Mm-hmm.
So I guess they can take 97,000 then. And keep paying their people.
Yeah, the only thing I had, and I meant to ask Bradley, like, where did he come up with this $157,599 indirect costs? It seems kind of high, but.
I guess that was my question, is why wouldn't, if you have $1 million in there, why would you only take 97,000 but 157 from general fund?
Oh, because this is coming, so what happens is that these are costs that are being appropriated in the general fund, like health insurance.
Okay, gotcha.
Treasurer time,
Payroll taxes.
payroll tax, all that kind of stuff, and we just charge it there as an expense, but it's already been appropriated someplace else, so you don't want to appropriate it twice.
Gotcha.
Because I did that, and they're like, yeah, you really can't appropriate it twice. I was like, oh yeah, way back when, which I'm trying to get Westfield to change theirs too. So yeah, that they only needed the $97,000 because they can make up the rest of this $1 million from revenues that they're bringing in. So anyway, that so that would be my only question. I mean, I can't really change it now, but it just seemed kind of high. But to go from like 98 to 157.
Honestly, like, I don't know how you used to do the calculation, but I was in the collector treasurer's office when we took over the water, and we saved them like $25,000 a year in what they were paying that company. But they were all worried that the town was going to get too much in indirect costs for our time, and
Yeah.
you know, like,
I did increase that
yeah,
afterwards, and we also included OPEB in there, which we hadn't done before.
right, and that's, yeah.
And that, but it didn't, it just seemed like whatever, 57, 58 grand from one year to the next seems,
Oh, is that how much? I didn't go back and look
yeah,
at
it was
last
kind of
year's.
high, anyway.
How do they work it when the highway employee
The highway,
gets their 5 hours?
they charge
Clerk.
directly.
So the clerk gets a separate check?
No, well, it gets charged to that line in the
It
payroll.
wouldn't be in the indirect though?
No,
Okay.
no.
Whose is it?
Robin, right, she does 5 hours a week for them?
For water?
Yeah.
It comes out of water
Water,
salaries and
salary,
wages.
water
It wouldn't
wages,
be in
yeah.
the
And not in the
No.
indirect, no.
No, if she were to work in the treasurer's office, those salaries get dumped in there, plus a percentage of the health insurance gets dumped in there, and the OPEB, and they even get charged, or they did, because they use one bay at the highway garage. So I came up with a calculation, for how much square foot is it, how much the liability insurance is, and blah, 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 so.
So Ed said, I said to Ed that it looks like Article 8 is an issue you might want to look at. Return earnings as transfers and deficit. His response is, DLS has said we could raise on 24 taxes or increase the rates. I have a proposal from Randall to do that. It would be like a policy approval.
Raise the $2,800?
Yeah, by raising the rates, I guess.
But what about the $7,000?
I didn't give a dollar amount. I just said it looks like there's an issue with the retained earnings.
Yeah, the retained earnings is negative. That can be raised on the recap, fine, or he can raise the rates to cover it. But you still have to, yeah, anyway. But it's the money you use from the retained earnings that don't exist to balance the budget. That's the piece, that's the trouble. I mean, it's all trouble, but.
Yeah.
So even if you raise the rates, you still don't have the money.
Yeah. The thing is, if he's gonna raise the rates to cover the whole budget, then this article needs to be worded differently. Because the retained earnings won't come from retained earnings, it's just gonna come from increase in rates, or bags, or whatever he's gonna do.
It's gonna be a long meeting. Tomorrow. 33 articles.
So Article 10, I'm okay with moving that money around for the police department. I'm okay with moving the money around for the library. Did we get the extra money in the budget for the library, the 1,900 or whatever, 5,000 bucks?
1,900.
1,900, okay,
They're gonna do the other 31 for the Friends.
Okay.
But what they asked for is, we actually gave 1901 because they asked for $19.20.
ah. Which, the last year I was here, Barbara and I had to do the waiver, and it was not nice.
No, it's not fun.
And that's actually why we reduced the town administrator's line item from the even 100. That money came out.
Yeah. Yeah, it was not fun, and if you do it again, as you know, you're kind of done for. So then Article 12 is moving custodial admin expenses to photocopier and lease. I guess all these papers is why we need more photocopier. So I'm okay with that. This will eliminate some of the transfers for year end, which is good. From the employee benefits operating budget, workers' comp from the health insurance bill. Oh, so they're putting it into workman's comp. Because it was caused by an insurance company audit of the town payroll. Well, that doesn't make us sound very good. I mean, I know it's basic, like they come in every year and they look at it, but it just makes it sound like we are messing around with someone's payroll, the way that it's worded. But
I think we, it has to do with the COVID one-time payments. The insurance company considered that wages.
oh, the money we got from the state for reimbursements?
No, the $260,000 from ARPA that we gave to town employees.
Well, they just look at your total, your 941s.
Yeah.
Right, so it's in the 941. We didn't,
You didn't put it in as a
That wasn't in the
stipend?
budget.
You put it in as wages?
it went through as wages on W-2.
Oh.
So when we, that wasn't in the number when we calculated what our unemployment.
And how much did everybody get?
Well, the total was 260, right? And if you were non-frontline, it was 3,000 cap, 5,000 cap if you were frontline.
I worked the entire time I was here during COVID.
You had to be actively employed.
I worked the entire time. I was here every day during COVID. Okay. The audit went up by 13,000 bucks.
Yep.
Well, thankfully, we still have someone that's willing to do it.
And that's this year's audit, right?
That's for 23.
Yeah, yeah.
And they're not even anywhere, they're not gonna start it this year, they're not gonna do anything. We have a contract with them though?
Yes.
And
Did we sign? We
Did you
probably
sign?
might wait for this transfer because we don't have the money until it's, right?
Oh, but they were the only one to submit a bid.
Yeah. Because if you don't have a signed contract, you can't carry this money forward just because you didn't get to the audit yet. So. Okay. So here we're taking another 32 from ambulance receipts reserve. So
We're already taking 125.
125 and 32,
157.
and there's 171, but that's only through January. So hopefully,
But didn't we take money out of there at a previous town? Wasn't there a special town meeting that we took money out of the ambulance receipts?
The previous fiscal year. Oh,
No, like,
Was
took
it the
money
last
out for the
ambulance-
ambulance payment,
last ambulance
68,000 or 66,000 bucks.
right, so did that get moved out of there?
It says expenditures are 196,000, so I don't know how much.
yeah. So I think we took 125 at a special town and then 68 for the and whatever the interest was that goes along with it. Was it like $948? So that's 180.
And then that would have, yeah, so the rest that's paid out of there is whatever they pay for whatever they pay East Hampton or Holyoke or Westfield or whatever.
For the intercepts.
Yeah, for the intercepts, so. So 16, capital, oops. Just want to make sure we are over. All right, so this there's 10,000 to upgrade the repairs to the town hall elevator. All right, so that's 10. And then this next one is cruiser pickup. So I'm a little confused as to why all these articles for capital got approved when we only had 31 and we only assumed that our capital that we're moving from free cash was $99,000.
Yeah, so that's what, like 122, doesn't it?
I mean, so that's now gonna be 206 with the 166, but if you originally thought there was only gonna be $90,000 and we only had 31.
Well, the one about the 16 or $17,000 about the sidewalks at Town Hall.
Well, I haven't gotten there yet.
Okay, so that one didn't come forward from capital. Select board put that one on.
Yeah,
Is
but
that
you're,
for out here?
Right outside by the drop boxes.
Oh. Because it said the entrance, and I'm thinking, I don't even know why we have sidewalks to the front doors, which you can't use, and the sidewalk doesn't even go to the parking. Well, yeah.
I guess my question is there's more in capital articles
Right.
than there would have been.
And, yeah.
So I'm like, how did you, I mean, because if you have 73 for this truck and you had 90 from originally, you got that plus 40, you got like 60 left. I mean, it doesn't kind of add up. So
And
anyway.
you've got another 16 for the Norris.
And this
North
exhaust
wing
is
locker.
30.
Yeah.
And this is 16,672. And these all got approved by the capital committee? Do we even have a capital committee?
Yeah, all but the sidewalk. Well, the sidewalk, they didn't move that one forward. The select board moved it forward afterwards, which we must have had an inclination that the money was coming from somewhere. It was kind of, well, no, that's what it was. We moved it forward and we were waiting for the fire department to confirm in writing what made up that bid, ask of $35,000.
All right. This gets covered, this other piece gets covered.
So like 140 something.
146, yeah. So there's like 60,000 and some change left in capital
After all these?
after all these. Yep, 10,
Historically, what is that? Is there
73,
like an amount that?
30.
Last year was the first year it wasn't a spend all. We tried to
Gotcha.
only go 50% and then the select board overruled and put something extra on, which only left the 40.
39,000 bucks, yep.
But it would be nice if we didn't spend it all. I mean, South Hadley has like 2 million in their capital stabilization. I know that they're a much bigger town too, but it means that they're not spending it as quickly as they get it, which anybody can do. I mean,
Well, and I assume they're still paying the same amount for a cruiser that we're paying, right?
Yeah.
No matter what.
and they replace like 4 or 5 cruisers a year.
So the next one would be this municipal light plant.
Yeah, I thought we already did this last
You
year.
You have to have 2 affirmative votes in back-to-back
Years?
fiscal years.
Oh. Okay. Well, we
So
definitely-
see, we should have I don't know if you were still working here when Westfield Gas and Electric came about doing fiber, and it was like $5 million bucks. They did a presentation and too much money, I don't even want to do it.
I mean, even Chesterfield has done it with Westfield, Whip City Fiber.
Yeah, they go
I
into
mean,
they go to the hill towns, yeah, and they get credits back for some of that.
but they
stuff.
they do their own billing. So like it's all, I know that they had to create a separate account and the treasurer has to, but they, just like ambulance receipts kind of, like the people who sign up for it pay their monthly bills and it goes into,
Yeah, Chester's done it, Washington's done it.
Yeah, they have all the Hilltown stuff.
I was hoping that Sean Fitzgerald, who's the,
Your gas and electric guy,
Yeah.
Southampton,
yeah,
the general manager.
yeah, that he would help, now it's called Fiber Spring, get brought here. Maybe. Anything to do away with Spectrum. All right, so the revolving funds are pretty,
I'm gonna go back to this
Oh, sorry.
opioid settlement stabilization account.
Okay.
I don't think that's a good idea. Because they're this close to approving the budget where there's a supplemental budget where there is legislation that the DLS is going to be given special permission to enact certain accounts for these types of things where they can make it a special revenue account or a receipts reserve for appropriation. It was attached to the Governor Healy's budget and it's already passed through all the pieces. So I know they told us when we do the accounting school at UMass, they said hold off on doing stabilizations because that's probably gonna pass and you won't necessarily need 2/3 vote to get out of.
Well,
You wouldn't have to do it at a town meeting.
Can we change
No.
the wording to be like, we approve this if nothing
Yeah,
else comes out
Yeah.
of the budget process?
Wait, could you change that later?
We
If you
could
did this
amend it
now.
amend it.
if you did this now and they changed it, you could take the money out of here and put it into there. Right now, the problem with opioid money is that it gets dumped into free cash. Because it comes in as a receipt and gets dumped into free cash. And you have to keep it separate in the general ledger and the general fund to use. You have to keep two separate free cashes. You have to keep one regular and one for opioid. And you can only appropriate money out of the opioid. And you can't carry it forward in the general fund unless your project isn't completed. So like if you wanted to appropriate money because you're renovating a room to house people who need to get clean or whatever, and you weren't finished with that project, you could carry that money forward. And it's just kind of a cumbersome accounting contact, but I wouldn't do it because I'm waiting for that to get legislation to get passed.
But if we don't do this now, is there a way to spend the money before that gets passed?
You have to. Well,
You would have to do it at a town meeting.
you would have to do it from free cash at a town meeting, correct? This still has to go to town meeting even if you do this
Are we getting paid yet,
stabilization.
though?
Right, no,
Yeah.
I get it,
Are
yeah.
payments coming in yet?
I don't know.
I know,
I think it's in preparation for the money.
we've received, South
we've
Hadley has
received a
received
boatload.
opioid
Oh, all right.
money, yeah, we've received quite a
We've
bit.
received quite a bit. And the thing about the opioid money is not,
A lot of it you had to apply, like the Board of Health had to request, submit something for it.
yeah, there was 2 different rounds. The first round wasn't as big as the second one. So we had to submit and they automatically, the mayor had to sign an EFT and it automatically came to us. And I just set up a special account for it just so I knew where it was going. But if you look online, it's not like, oh, you're gonna get $80,000 a year for like the next 10 years. It's every amount every year is different. So it's hard to kind of do anything unless you have it in a stabilization or a special revenue fund. So whether or not the town, because they should have already gotten the money, because July of last year was the first time that they got payments.
where would we see that on the, maybe it would be on the revenue.
It should be on the revenue report if they put it in a special account, which I don't know if they did or they didn't. Because then how do you know where it is to put it into the stabilization?
And
And
this
if
doesn't-
we don't vote this before the end of June, like say we said we want to pass over this for now because we think there's legislation coming. Can we do it at a special town meeting in the fall, or
Yeah.
would we then, but would we
Whatever the money we
lose?
brought in already.
Right, the
It would-
money,
Whatever money you brought in already would get dumped into free cash.
well, see,
But it has to be a separate free cash. Like you can't take the free cash from opioid and use it
Oh, I see.
for other things.
So then in theory, once that legislation come down, you could vote to appropriate the opiate free cash account surplus into those special revenue. accounts.
Yes, yep. So if you got $200 or $462,000 in free cash and 62 is from opioid, you can't use that 62 in your balance to appropriate to for projects or the 10% or the 5%. You have to keep it separate. It's still in free cash and you're undesignated, but you have to keep it separate.
So the only thing that this would do then is to take that amount out of free cash.
Yeah, and put it in
And
there.
actually know where it is.
Yeah.
Right, and then
But-
in a perfect world, it would be invested and earn something in the meantime. Sit in
Or,
free cash
or,
itself.
or 6 months into the fiscal year and whatever legislation happens and then it gets moved to.
but even still, you can, any money that's, any available general fund money can be, as long as there's cash flow, can be invested, which it is being currently.
Yes.
But without this, you wouldn't be able to spend any of the opioid money that's in the free cash.
Until it gets certified. Until the state says, so if you got the
Until
money,
next fiscal.
until whenever you get free cash certified,
next-
yeah. Yeah.
Well, and then you'd need a 2/3 majority vote to get it out of there, to spend it on something. You'd have to have a town meeting vote to spend it from a stabilization. Where if it's in a special revenue fund, you don't need town meeting vote.
Unless it's a receipts reserve like ambulance.
Oh.
So the state was like, hey, we're gonna get all this money, here you go.
So by
And
doing,
it's cumbersome to keep track of.
so by doing this, we would be able to spend the opioid money in the next fiscal year without being certified for the free cash.
Yeah, you'd still have to put it in here and then you could take
Right.
it out.
Then
So
we-
the only
then
down-
we could spend it between July and September. If we
Yes.
stay on schedule,
Yeah, so
free
the
cash would
only,
get certified in October.
the only downside would be paperwork.
Yeah. It's just easy, I guess
I guess my concern is that we have a bunch of opioid money in free cash.
I don't think we
And-
got any, you didn't get this 22, there's probably not in any, because we didn't start getting them until 23.
Okay.
So in July of calendar 22,
So hopefully Bradley has been putting it separate, into something separate, so we know how much is really in there. How much we've really gotten just in opioid money.
yeah, I'm trying to find the article here in the supplemental budget. That was way early on, but yeah, DLS, their recommendation was hold off on doing stabilizations because that legislation and it's not just with opioid, it's with everything. So the head of the DLS can say, we think this is warranted enough to be in a special revenue fund. We're gonna create legislation to create that special revenue fund, and it doesn't have to go to the House and the Senate and blah, 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 blah. Because things like this come up and it just ties your hands on how you can spend it. So. wish I
Then
knew.
we don't have anything in the works, we don't have like an opioid committee or anything that we.
Do you know what you can even use it for?
Yeah, whatever original guidelines have come out.
Yeah, but has the town decided what they were gonna?
Well, no, those guidelines were shared with the Board of Health, and the Board of Health is preparing a plan for approval. I haven't seen it yet. But I know they've solicited all the nursing and department heads and first line folks for feedback on what type of program it would be.
I'm serving on the opioid committee in Sturbridge.
Yeah, supplemental bill proposes municipal finance rule changes. It's on the Mass Municipal side on March 21st, but anyway. So I don't agree with this because I think that legislation's coming out as soon as they pass the budget completely. But that's my own personal take. I mean, it's not gonna hurt you to do it because you can take the money out, but you gotta vote the money in. And, you don't have to vote the money in if it's in a receipts reserve or a special revenue. But here, if it's in free cash, you still have to wait for it to get certified in order to put it in here. And then you have to take it out. So anything that they get in '23, not until they submit all their documentation to the Department of Local Services and they get the free cash certified, then they can take it out of there and put it in here.
Okay.
And so if you are, again, in March or whatever we are in May, deciding you're gonna close the books, you're stuck that whole year without doing anything with the money. Because you can't take it out of there to put it in here. So.
I don't think, well, other than the revolving fund thing, which is the same every year. I don't think.
We did change fire department back down to 10,000. Last year, it got bumped up to 20 to deal with that ATV.
Oh, so they can only spend the 10,000 on brush stuff?
I believe that's the only change from prior year.
But I don't think, oh, go ahead.
No, they are thinking of changing this revolving fund thing too, so.
I don't think that we need to vote on any of these other CPC articles because they're not related to taxation, right?
Technically, no. I mean, they are because they're a surcharge on people's taxes, but I don't know that we've ever done recommendations for CPC stuff in the past.
Yeah, and then it goes to the bylaw amendments, which we don't.
And then the naming rights too.
Yeah. But those aren't financial articles.
No, they're not,
so.
no.
I mean, I don't have an issue with any of these CPC projects anyway. All right, so we don't need to go through all the bylaw things, all right?
Do we?
I don't think we do.
I'm ready to go.
No.
Tomorrow's gonna be long enough. So, do we need to, like, make an official motion that we are in favor or in support of the articles except for,
7, right, the override?
the override and,
8 as it's currently.
8, as it's currently written, correct?
right?
That was it.
Because of the retained earnings.
Yeah.
And,
The only other thing, again, we have that whole, I don't know what you guys feel about the stabilization piece, but that's my own.
I mean,
I guess if we don't have a plan for the money in the near future, then it doesn't hurt to wait.
it's not, but whether we agree with it, with the accounting concept of it or not, it's not really it's really just setting up the account. So as a finance committee, it's not really a financial article, is it? I
Yeah,
mean, because
that's
it's
true.
not moving money.
No, you're right.
It's just setting up the account.
Yep.
So whether we personally agree
Yeah,
with
yep.
the accounting of it, it's not really affecting the finances
No,
at this point.
you're right, you're
so-
right.
But if
Good
there's a
point.
reason to not recommend, to recommend that we not do it.
No, but I mean, if we say it's not a financial article,
And we can speak individually
we
if
can
we
speak
want. Yeah.
individually, but as a
Committee,
committee.
yeah. It's not in our purview.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Makes
I mean,
sense.
I agree with you,
Yeah,
but
no, it makes sense, totally makes sense.
those are yours too.
Well, those are all the ones Ed Oh, actually, that was mine from originally. I wanted to see what was changed, but you already kind of made that piece.
I think this was an extra.
Oh. I'm trying to get rid of like tax title bills from like 1975 in my office. So.
They're still collectible, you know, you never know. As Richie's famous words from Smithfield.
Yeah, we have
They
a
could
whole
be dead, and
list.
their heirs could be dead, and the heirs, the top limb could be dead. Well, you can
Well, we have a list of
Yeah, we should.
tax titles that,
Yeah. I make a motion to adjourn at 8:35.
so moved.
Second,
Second, sorry. Oh.
third,
So-
all in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.